Good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to this wonderful world and wonderful LinkedIn Live where myself and my good friend Jason talk about the soft and system side to sales. And today, Jason, we're talking about becoming recession proof, being recession ready. Like there's a lot of talk in the news at the moment. We're nearly
Mm,
talking ourselves into another recession the way the
I think
news
so,
and
yeah.
media are going on at the moment. And even with all these tech firms, Jason, with all their layoffs and things like that. Now, that's just sending a really negative message. But what does it really mean, Jason? A lot of these tech companies are bloated. They're
Yeah.
absolutely bloated. But everything is sending the world the message that we need to tighten down the hatches, right?
Yeah.
Which is fine, Jason. But here's the thing, as I said, we could talk ourselves into a new recession, right? But regardless of it, Jason, it's good practice as sales teams to be always recession ready, right?
Yeah.
And this could be your potentially third recession, Jason, if I'm correct. So
Yeah, I think so.
before we go into any details, tell me about your experiences in the previous few recessions. Tell me what they're like.
So my very first recession was when I was quite young, or younger. Um, and it was the property bubble burst. And that was in the UK when I was living in England. And everything went tight. Before that, the property market was sky high. And then all of a sudden it just dropped. We were quite lucky at that time. My parents had moved and they downsized. Well, they actually just moved out the area, which was an expensive area, to another area, which was about 80 miles away, and it was good for them at the time. And I was living there. So I experienced that one. And then the second one was when I was working in London, and I was working with a big startup, lots of people working there, 50 million of investment from BT, websites and all of that. And it was the dot-com bubble burst, and
Okay, yeah.
lots of people invested, and there was a big crash, and lots of companies went bust. There was obviously some resilience there with the likes of Google that started creating their own thing. They were quite lucky in that time, so they obviously did well. But there's a lot of other companies around that, and I know a lot of them just don't imploded in on themselves just because everyone went a little bit crazy. I was lucky enough to get myself out of that and into something else. But then 2000, when I moved to Ireland, everything was Celtic Tiger days, and then the financial crash, was it 2009, 2011?
2008. I know that one
2008.
well, Jason. I know that one well.
So, it's another one where a lot of people just get very nervous about things and let people go. And like I was let go a couple of times over that period of time. So another time, everyone's talking about recession, global recession. We've had COVID, which was a bit of a mad one as well. And you had to pivot. And people did lose their jobs in COVID, I suppose. And now it's sort of the tech things, and we know the announcements of Twitter. That was pretty bad and very bad karma. We know about that. Then there's Facebook or Meta or whatever they want to call themselves is going through this similar sort of thing. Not as much making an impact. So there's ripples going around. Is it social influence? Is it stuff that's the press going a bit mad with it? Do we have to start to buckle our belts, or do we have to just start to be better versions of ourselves, as we should always be? We should always work as the way I look and like to look at it is, regardless whether you're employed or not employed, factor in that you are self-employed. You are your own revenue generated person. Regardless of whether you rely on your basic salary and all those cushions and everything else like that, now it's really time to focus in. If you were an order taker before, you better start buckling up, Sonny, and changing the way that you sell and start to really serve others better. So there are lots of different strategies around this. Number one, I would always suggest is, if you're feeling a pinch now, find someone to help you, find a team to help you, find a coach, find a trainer. That's the first thing. Getting if sometimes that's the one of the first things to go, but that's the first thing that you should be doing is, look for ways to better serving your teams by getting really good training and getting really good coaching, whatever that might look and feel like, and get a really good, strong process in place.
Yeah, no, brilliant, Jason. And I can totally resonate with what you said about should you buckle up or become better versions of yourself, Jason, because I had that experience myself in the 2008. Like the conveyor belt of money just stopped over my night. I was owed a lot of money, and then I owed money on the other side. It was really difficult. But to your point, Jason, about becoming better version, that's exactly what we did. We stood back and we learned how to deliver value. We learned how to focus on a core set of customers. We learned how to manage the risk and exposure that we were putting into the marketplace. And we were very careful about the business we took on. We actually created a set of criteria for the business we should take on. And that was based on like existence in the marketplace, how long they were, what their reputation was, what kind of payment strategies we could implement with them, and how we could protect both parties. So it wasn't just about us, it was about them too, right? And it made a huge difference. And I've been helping other companies do this, Jason, as well, because I've learned how to, my own business back then, to thrive in difficult times. And that's what I teach now. And I always believe, if you, to your point, stop thinking sales is an administration role, picking up the phone, putting orders on a system, get out there, build those relationships, find out what their needs are. And I always say, Jason, if you're being very smart about this, as you should be doing these scenarios at the start of every year. You should be managing the scenarios, updating them on a quarterly basis to see how relevant or whatever is happening, what changes are happening. You should be seeing these signs coming if you're paying attention to what's going on. Because when you start doing your good case, break even case, and not so good case, you need to also, with the way the world has gone, things can change so fast. You need to have that crisis model. And what does that mean from the sales perspective? What do you have to do for your business, but also that small cohort of customers you want to protect and serve that you believe will ride the storm with you? So it's all about being really smart, Jason, and being very good. The other thing, Jason, that's really important to me is, like I always talk, and we've talked about it before, having that systematic sales funnel. Like not that bloated funnel where you're only generating leads that you believe have a good chance that can turn into good meetings, which have a good chance that can turn into potential orders. And that because you start working on, we talked about it before, that feedback between every single step. So you're only generating leads that are potentially good leads. You're not bloating your funnel, wasting a lot of time, increasing your cost of sales because you're targeting the wrong customers. So it's very important to be, as you said, smart and become better versions of you as a person, but also as the team operates.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. That is a really smart move. Start looking into your funnel, reducing the crap that's in there, the stuff that's in there which shouldn't be in there. Like we know this, and so too the sales managers should know this. They should be going, let's get ruthless with this. Let's start going through every single pipeline and just checking in, doing a sense check. The other thing I was thinking about is keeping in touch with your existing clients, because obviously they're the ones that are going to be looking after you, but also do a temperature check with them as well, just to see how things are working with them at the moment with all of this talk of recession. Do your due diligence behind that and make sure you do research before then just doing a random phone call with them and just to see what their marketplace is like, and just check out the social media websites or whatever before you call them, so you're best informed to give them the best advice that you could probably can do, because we are a service industry. So let's best serve them and just have a look at their accounts and see what we can do to help them within potential crisis. If everything's going well, happy days. And I'm sure they'll respect you more if you there in advance, just in case anything happens, because you want, at the end of the day, advisor, And the more and the better that you can serve your existing customers, they're going to look after you. Inadvertently, as we already know, they're going to recommend you to someone else because you're thinking about every single thing to help them be better at what they do. And I think that's one of the best things that we can do.
Yeah, well, I will even go, I totally agree, Jason. I think that's really smart. I always say your customers are your extended enterprise, as is your suppliers. Guess what? You're all part of the same chain to protect that end user, the end customer. So why don't you all work together to make it better? Why don't you just sit with your suppliers and customers and say, look, we know things are going to get tough. How can we all work together to be really smart, really effective, really tight with our supply chain, so then we can keep working through this difficult period that's going to come ahead, and then serve the customers we know, that with the cohort of customers that we know will be still buying, Jason. And that's about, and I always talk about, you should be playing in your customers' playground, so much so, regardless of price, Jason. You're not supposed to be the cheapest. You're not supposed to be the most expensive. You're supposed to be the best value. When you are the best value, people will not entertain other knocks on the doors. And when you prove, as you said, that you're there for their interests to solve their problems, they'll see you as a protected part of their business, Jason. That's how relationships work. You put yourself in your customer's shoes and you protect them. And if you do all that groundwork all the time, Jason, this work is not that much harder, because you open those conversations and you build that end-to-end view with them. It's a partnership.
I like the way what you suggested about the suppliers for your business as well. And that's probably something to do with either your operations manager or service manager, or whoever it might be, and get everyone in, not even into the same room, but you can. If you have lots of suppliers, lots of customers, let's maybe have a mind share day or something like that. Get everyone in the room, have a conversation about how can we best serve each other all the way through. I love that idea. That's a really smart idea. Something else that you could possibly do is redefine your market and redefine maybe a difference, what you can do above and beyond your competitors. Have obviously look at your competition, which is obviously core, but maybe just slightly pivot your product and your service that you actually offer in the market, and maybe redefine it, because everyone pivots. Everyone pivoted in COVID. Now we're sort of going back to some normality, just about. But, you know, now another time to pivot, but get smarter about what we do, get clever about what we do, and work with the clients again and serve them in the best way possible. You suggested is absolutely perfect, right on the money.
Yeah, it is, Jason. And what we're really saying, what we haven't really just spelled out there, we're talking about existing customers. When you go into these tough times, it's a difficult time to sell to new customers, Jason. It really is, unless there's a really high chance of getting that sale. You want to be focusing and protecting, putting like a protection around. I always talk about using boat and sea analogies. Sailors don't learn their skills in a calm sea, Jason. You have to really put, like, all your customers are boats in the water. You need to tie a rope around them and protect your existing customers. And then sometimes, Jason, that could mean letting go of some of the customers that are not adding value to you.
Yeah.
You know, you have to be really smart and have to think. There's a time where you have to think of your best interest. If your customer isn't providing the win for you, if they're changing goalposts, costing you more, changing the terms and conditions and everything through the course of it, and expectations, you can't service them in recessionary times. They cost too much. It has to be the win-win, Jason. So find out who those win-win customers are and put a rope around them and work with them. And again, your supplier could be doing that to you as well. They see you as a customer, so it's the same thing. If you want good customers, be a good customer to your supplier too. And as you said, build that end-to-end view and protect it as best you can.
I think you're absolutely right there about some customers. Okay, they're probably taking a lot of time and effort to get them, but maybe the conversation with them first and say, look, this is the way of the land. Let's just be honest with them, and also be a bit vulnerable with them and just say, this relationship might not be working. Let's have a conversation about how we can make it work with our clients. If it's not revenue generated, it might just be maybe a short-term fix, or we can look for the long term. Like, they come to you for some reason, so we might have to go, well, what's the best thing that we can possibly do with them for the long-term strategy? So they're happy, we're also happy, and we can find some sort of solution with them. And I like to look at when you have a look at major accounts and strategies around that, is short-term, 1 year time, 3 years time, and 5 years time with that customer. What can you absolutely imagine where that could be going? And what other strategies could you do to employ with that client, regardless of whether we're in recession or not? I always seem to think from previous recessions, you have to have that wiggle room of around about 10% or so, because you just don't know what's going to happen. We never knew that COVID was going to happen. We was almost sure that this recession was going to happen, because after COVID, it was something else was going to happen, because governments and whatever were paying for something. So they have to recoup their costs, which puts stress on the whole ecosphere of the economy. Like, I'm not an economist, but I can imagine sort of scenario.
There is stress. You're absolutely right, Jason. And the other thing that I like to talk about is, if you think of all your competitors, they're going to be batting down the hatches, right? That's what they're going to do.
Right.
And I've done this myself with my own business, Jason, in the recession of 2008. It came by chance as a test where a marketing, like a guy with a magazine, a journal came to me and asked for some advertising. I said, let me think about it. And he was telling me all my customers they're all tightening up their budgets. And I said to myself, that's interesting. If my competition are not marketing, and then I market in the right forums and media for my marketplace, does that give me a competitive advantage? So I said, let's do a deal. Let's do a deal. And if it works the first time, if we do one pilot campaign and we get some traction, and we'll create measurement techniques on how we can measure success, we'll do more. And we'll do a strategy with you through the course of this thing. It worked really well, Jason. We were the only one marketing in key magazines to our marketplace for the time of the recession, right? And then when the recession was gone, here's the thing, Jason, when a company, and I'm going to come back to marketing in a second, but when the companies that can ride the storm, to learn to ride the storm, they're the ones who will flourish when the economy starts flowing again. So it's really important to learn that, like, riding the storm strategy during the course of recession. But marketing, just to go back to marketing, Jason, like marketing, sales, two different teams, right? Separate KPIs, separate workflows to work towards, right? Sometimes they contradict and not complement, Jason. So it's really important to get those teams really collaborating really, really well. So you really are clever about your marketing campaigns. As I said, a strategy market where your competition are pulling back from stands out. There's a smaller pie, but you're going to get a bigger piece of it if you're really smart and targeted and focused. So there's opportunity through this long term. If you're thinking medium and long term, Jason, you can really do well if you're able to ride the storm.
I love that. Yeah, that was a point that I was going to suggest, but you took it over. And I like that, because sometimes you just got to look for risk taking.
Yeah.
You have to go, well, let's have a look, but you have to be quite strategic. I think you always have to be strategic with your marketing. And again, you have to be congruent with sales and marketing. So many times I've seen them. Well, I know we talked about this before. Marketing's that direction and sales that, and they don't really talk. And you go, why aren't you talking? You should be working in streamline. They should always be working with marketing, should always be almost shadowing sales on a meeting to find out what the customer wants. Once you find out what the customer wants, you can just go, wow, then we've got a better process, and we can define to the customer what they want, as opposed to what we think. Get the old crystal ball out and go, hang on a minute, let's see where they are, rather than what they do want and the messaging that's going to be specific for that market, that vertical, and their needs, and it's all about them.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely spot on, Jason. Like, and I love that because defining what that word lead means to your business, right?
Yeah.
That both sales and marketing have one unified understanding of whatever you may have a number of different types of customers, but having that understanding very specific what a lead means. And then you start practicing, doing your lead generation, whatever forms, whatever channels you're doing it, and then tweaking it, tweaking and tweaking until it gets better and better. Over a period of time, you've got you know what your target audience is. And
Here's
again, Jason,
here's a here's the
that's
thing.
it.
Here's the
Yeah.
thing that I'm thinking of. I'm sorry about cutting over you, but
Yeah.
I think it's a really good idea to get the whole business in, like regardless, reception, secretary, accounts, marketing, sales, service, all into a room. Do the lean process as you're very good at doing, but maybe incentivize the whole company. If there is a recession, now's the time to just look for opportunities. Opportunities come from absolutely anywhere. Have the whole business going around, well, we need to find opportunities. Like we're having to tighten our belts. Maybe there's a different compensation plan. If, as an example, a customer service finds an opportunity, they should get rewarded for it. Obviously, pass over to sales for them to deal with it. But then everyone is a self-generated accounts come in, accounts go out. Let's have a look at maybe there's something in there as well, because the accounts department will speak to the other accounts department in the other company. There could be opportunities by conversation, not just by chance, and share the knowledge. Just there could be opportunities absolutely everywhere and anywhere if we just open our minds to thinking in a different direction.
Yeah, and I agree, Jason. It's funny, not for this conversation, but I have a strategy for what you've just described again. Maybe we can talk about it on another session. So look, we've come up on time, Jason. So sum it up in 1 to 1.5 points, right? The best you can. What's the number one thing you believe sales teams should do in preparing for recessions?
Work smarter, buckle up, enjoy the ride. Companies still survive through a recession. Some of the most successful companies will actually do better. So keep it on positive.
Yeah, brilliant, fantastic. My number one thing, Jason, is be recession ready when there's no recession on the horizon.
Yep.
Learn how to tighten up, know that business plan, know the model that you have to work to, and know when to execute it. So anyway,
Love it.
Jason, thanks again for your time where we talk about the soft and system side sales. Thanks for people who are tuning in, who are going to watch it on the channels. And we'll see you again next week for another conversation in how to maximize your sales. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you
Cheers.
soon.